Okay, thank you guys for coming. For those who couldn't make it, I'm sorry that I sucked you guys in here. The plan was to record what I'm going to talk about for those who can't be here, but you guys get to be the studio audience. Then others who are watching it can watch, learn about what we're going to discuss, and then ask George any questions as he takes the answers. I know many people shared that they can't be here, but they'd like to have individual conversations with me about what we're going to go over. Which the solution to that is having a meeting so that we don't have to have many individual conversations with current players, and that those will be reserved for new players. But this video can also be shared with new players so that they get information about what it looks like to be a 14-year-old. Now, the 14-year-old experience is the most confusing in the entire process of travel baseball and youth baseball. Here's the reason why. You enter the fall as a 14U player. You're now a 14-year-old 8th grader, but during the spring, the 14 9th leave and the 14 8th remain. So the 14-year-old 8th grade spring looks very different than the fall because all of the 9th older players are gone in high school. Now, traditionally high school baseball and travel baseball, tournament baseball respected and kept their distance. The most current phase is that high school now kind of tries to attempt to play year-round, where travel baseball goes, we're going to play in the spring too. So now you have very confusing opportunities where you are a high schooler who could play in the spring, and there could be people say, well, it's against the rules. And it's like, well, the school that's saying it's against the rules is also violating a lot of the rules. So if they were to self-report for breaking rules, they would be under scrutiny of a lot of different rules. So in reality, the rules have become like driving 65 on the freeway, where it's like, will you call the police and say, I want to let you know that I was driving 67 and not 65? And it probably doesn't happen. So in high school, so this is a confusing time because spring 14U splits. Now, going into the summer, the idea is that both would come back together for a 14U summer. Now, traditionally, commitments now occurring in the summer are for summer and fall, for example, because nobody really commits for a summer. So really it's because you wouldn't do all the work to create a summer team for just 2 months. And for people who are committed to a team, they don't really want to commit to a team for just 2 months. They would rather do it for a longer period of time to keep continuity of the team, like invest in chemistry, all of the above. So no groups are really for just for the summer. So this group, that's also, so if they recommitted going into the summer, they're 14U in the summer, but on August 1st, they become a 15U, but they play at that time at 16U tournaments. So when they started as a 14U 8th, 9th team, they then become 14U 8th and 9th in the spring. Ideally, they would become a 14U team again in the summer, but they're committed through the summer and fall, traditionally, in most cases, where they become a 15U in the fall, playing 16U baseball. There's one thing here that's complicated though. When 14U 9th graders, when player number 10, no offense to player 10 on a team, when he's a 9th grader, he's been player number 10 on a team, on this same exact team for 5 years. He goes to 9th grade and goes to high school, he no longer wants to play on this team. Not because in his mind, it would be beneath him to return to 14-year-olds who are in 8th grade because he's a high schooler and he needs to get ready for something. In his mind, even though he's still player number 10, he's like, it's hard for me to play with this. So it's a weird dynamic that's very real for people, where they feel like they're playing down, playing at age level. So now, on top of all of that, grade level becomes very relevant. So, so for us, it's a lot of information in a short amount of time, but you can see 12U is linear. 12U team, go to Cooperstown and do all that. 13U, relatively linear. 14U up until this point, pretty linear. You're a 14-year-old. It shifts right now. It shifts in 14U spring. So now the question becomes for you guys, there's 3 different pieces. There's spring, there's summer, and fall. Okay, and these couple concepts are what I want to talk about. But first, you guys are your current 8th grader, parents of current 8th graders who are 2028 grads. So for me, your job is to look right ahead at what's in the spring and what's in the summer and kind of look at, like, they've gone up, they've been 11, 12, 13, now they're 14. We need to look at 14 spring, summer, and fall, and then 15 and onward. You probably don't care that much right now about what 16U looks like, 17U or junior or senior. My job is to do the opposite. So as I look at you guys, I immediately look at 2028. What will you want out of your whole baseball experience 4 years from now when you're a senior? What it looks like for seniors right now, and I'll just say seniors first. The seniors don't really play in the spring because they're playing high school ball. There are opportunities for them to do more than nothing, but they're absolutely playing in the summer because they're going to a college campus in the fall. So current seniors right now, most of them are not committed to college. And again, you guys, you're trying to navigate and figure out high school. For us, it's looking at what college looks like. So spring of your senior year is when most of the college commitments occur. You're gonna hear that people commit freshman year, or you're gonna hear all kinds of stuff and feel behind for the next several years. So the first time 2028 commits and you go, now we're behind, we haven't committed to college yet. And it's like, that's one guy in the country. And it's rare, and that guy will be decommitted and end up going to a different school because it's based on projection, not ability right now. So going from your senior year, that's the same senior who's going to graduate right now. He absolutely played summer and fall going into his senior year. So the reason and value of the fall in the long run for talented baseball players, where does the most college recruiting occur here? Anybody? Any guess at where it occurs?
Fall.
Fall is number one. What's number two? Summer. What's number three? Spring. What occurs in the spring? High school baseball. So how important is high school baseball in the long run relative to college recruiting? And part of the reason is if you see players very spread out in a high school season, it's more difficult to capture volume of talent at one time. Where in the summer and fall, you have events and teams that are high volume of talent, where you can better capitalize on going out and seeing players relative to recruiting. Also, in the spring, what are the colleges doing? Playing. Every practice for every team in college is the 7th game of the World Series. Because if they're not going all in a practice, they don't perform well enough. What happens to the coach when they don't do well? Fired. It means they don't have a job, they have to take their family, relocate, look for a job. So the seriousness of it in the mind of a young player and the college coach are worlds apart. So they're not missing a practice. Now, if Fullerton comes up to play a team locally, do you think that they say, we're gonna miss our game against Santa Clara and go out to watch a game of Livermore High versus Emerald Valley and see if there's any talent there? So of course not, like it wouldn't make any sense. So what I'm pointing out is for seniors now, senior fall becomes all in. But do you really want to play other sports and do a bunch of other things at that point? The answer is no. Junior year, now recruiting has gone a lot younger. Junior year, every talented player is playing summer and fall. They may or may not play high school relative to college recruiting. And again, at that point, their focus isn't as much how to navigate their freshman year of high school, because now they haven't figured out. They're trying to figure out what's next, and then what's next is college. So going back to sophomore year, somebody has already come off their freshman year, so they understand the flow of what their high school program is going to look like, and kind of what the desires are of the coaches, what you need to do versus what you should do. Sophomore year commitments for Headfirst, for example, and all the other teams are summer and fall. So the difficult thing is, so now we get to freshman year. The freshman experience for the 9th grader, who's 14, is spring, they're in high school. Their commitment will be summer and fall. Along with 9th graders, 10th graders, 11th graders, 12th graders know their commitment stops here in the summer because they're already committed, they're going to school in the fall. So now we're gonna skip 14U for a moment and go to 13U. 13U, your commitment at one point was fall through the next summer. And it made sense. It was like, it's our team, and there's not a lot of other conflicts. And like, I kind of understand, I I'm in middle school. I understand the flow of what middle school sports are now. I know I'm on playing 5 different sports still, on 6 different teams, and I have a lot of stuff, and I've kind of figured out how to balance it, which is great. Then you go, I'm an 8th grader going into 9th. I don't really know what that's going to look like. What we tried to do as Headfirst, traditionally, here's what our commitment has looked like for 14-year-old 8th graders. You are committing, 14-year-old 8th graders would commit for the spring only. During the spring, we would offer for the next phase, which was summer and fall. This model of, now the 14-year-old 9th graders, they're not included in the spring. So they're committing for summer and fall. This we would call the upper division commitment level, okay, which is summer and fall. So you can see why it's high school, all of our teams. So at 15, 16, 17, and 18, we are 90% finished recruiting and team assembling and down payments, and all of that is done for next summer and fall. And there are a couple spots available. And that's already occurred. So they understand the rhythm of it. They say, yes, absolutely, I get it. None of them have said, I'm in for summer only or fall only, because they get it, because they've been through it. Now, for the lower division, remember, the lower division model was kind of like committing in the fall, going through, and then taking this all the way back. So this we would call the lower division model. The thing is, when you're 14 years old, you're going from a lower division mindset and experience, and then you're going into the upper division. So that's why for us, what we've done traditionally is say, the 14U spring is its own ecosystem. Also, the 9th graders are gone. So how do we create teams and commit players, and how do we form all of that for the spring only when we just lost a bunch of players? Because then where do the new players come from? So if you have a team of 7 8th graders and 5 9th graders in your 14U team, the 5 9th graders are gone, what do? Now you don't have enough players and they're not playing. Your team folds, and then the players go look for a place to play. And then we've been a recipient of many players in 14U spring where we go, okay, we have to be improvisational. We have the benefit of having multiple teams per age level, so we have volume that we can also consolidate, or we can say, we're going to figure out how to weave the 14U spring experience into something that is meaningful and competitive. We had a team once on the 14U circuit in the spring that not only did they never lose a championship at the majors level, they never lost on a Sunday. They lost one game on a Saturday one time, and they won every single game. So that's dominant, very high level majors competition. That the team in the spring was different than it had looked in the fall, because the high schoolers were gone. And again, and at the end of that, despite their dominance, the team was broken up because now we're in the upper division model. So again, I'm just giving you guys history on how it has looked originally and how confusing it can be. What we decided this year, partially, I'll give credit to George, because we sat in meetings and went over and over and over, which way do we want to do? Do we want to do it differently? And we said, if we know that we want all the players, what's simplest is to commit them to the whole year. Commit them to the whole thing. Is that good for us? We have a lot of players coming, and we get locked into players that we're going to find upgrades of the players from a talent perspective. But we go, it's simpler for us, it's simpler for them, and we like the players. And the players are, now, somebody's going to get hurt, someone's going to move, there's some attrition naturally. But now within that, as people play multiple sports and do different things, when you look at a big commitment, different things are going to come up, and you're going to miss some practices, you're going to miss some games, and that's understood. For Headfirst, we're super flexible about that, and the fact that we have multiple teams, we can just borrow from one to play for another. In fact, a lot of people aren't here today because they're guest playing on another team within Headfirst that needed players to be more competitive and volume, and they got to get more reps in. So that's a natural thing for us. George is very good at interweaving that so that people have a meaningful experience. So what we thought was, okay, what if right now in spring we just have a commitment for the whole thing, and that becomes your 14-year-old experience. It is simple. It is the other part of what we did traditionally. When you went spring only and then summer, your payment for the spring looked one way per month. But as I just mentioned, in the upper division model, down payment for the summer has already happened. So how do you know that someone's going to be in for the summer? And you have a travel trip in mid-June. So when do you commit for the summer team? When would you have to commit for the summer team? Anybody? Obviously not June 1st, because you have a tournament in 2 weeks in Arizona after that, or something like that. So when do you think you would have to commit? I mean, what would be reasonable?
Like March.
And March would be
Mid-spring.
right, yeah. If that's the case though, now you have double payments. Because now you have your monthly due, and then you have your monthly cost for the spring, but now you have your monthly cost toward what's next, so that we can secure the teams for the longer time, which got confusing for people. It's like, we're paying twice and all that. Then 9th grade 14-year-old doesn't have to worry about that because they go, yeah, I'm only for the summer and fall. I'm a high schooler, and here's my down payment of $500 in March, and here's my next payment the next month. They're not paying double. Well, they are paying high school cost to play. So high school is travel baseball now, where you're paying high amounts for a different product. We won't get into that right now. But you're not paying Headfirst or a travel team for both when you're a 9th grader. When you're an 8th grader, you are. So what we thought is, if you spread it out over a long period of time, the commitment and the payment, it's simpler for everybody. And if we have if we're willing to commit to the players, and if the players are willing to commit back, then it makes sense. Doesn't have to be that way at all though. From our perspective, we look now, a lot of folks have said, hey, in our kind of mindset based on the past of being younger coming up, what if we commit for the spring and the summer? Okay, now, and for us, we go, makes sense, it's reasonable on our side, but what about the fall? More so for me, I look and go, if I'm having a lot of tryouts, and I have some talented players that they're looking for a place in the summer, and if a player is not committed to the fall, they're marginally committed, and I can commit a different player for that time, why wouldn't I? So I would look at that player who can't commit to that and say, it's reasonable on your side, it's also reasonable on my side that I put you on a different team for the summer, if I can commit to somebody for the summer and fall. Because if you're not committing on your side to the summer and fall, how does Headfirst commit to you? Even if we want to, how do we say, we want to commit, but we're going to turn away a talented and equal player because we're going to have a void and it's not your issue. And at your issue as ball players, I would like to have my cake and eat it too. In fact, I'd like to just commit month by month and just figure it out month by month what I want to do next. That would be the ideal. In fact, I would like to do month by month and have no payment and come and go when I want. And like, that's the ideal. On our side though, we go, how do we work with that and give you what you want, because your needs are different, but the other players on the team then don't have enough players. And then they have guest players and we don't have a team concept. Now, we're willing to do that. So again, Headfirst, we have volume, so we can fill in and figure it out, and we can create solutions later, and we can make it work very well. But here's what I would say for you guys. If this model, so 2 things. There's the spring, there's committing for the spring, and then the upper division model, that's what it is in the future. Like, that's what it's going to be anywhere you play. If you're not playing in the spring, I'm saying as a 9th grader, for example, you're going to end up probably committing to a longer period of time. Now, the number one thing people say, which I understand from a year-long commitment, here's the hard part for you guys. You understand your current phase as 8th graders, you really don't know what it's going to look like in fall of 9th grade year. That's the tough one. It's kind of like, no offense to anybody here, but it's like going to kindergarten for the first time, and the kindergartner's crazy and running around, or a freshman on a college campus, where now they're away from home and run crazy and they don't know what to do, and their grades slip, and they're drinking, get in trouble and doing all that. Then by sophomore year, they figure it out, and they understand the rhythm of it, and they're able to do that. That's kind of what it is for the high school travel parent going from 8th to 9th grade, where they go, what if he's on varsity, and what if they want me to do, what if I need to quit everything, what if, and it's like, doesn't work that way at all whatsoever. But we know that. We know it exactly at your school, and we're friends with your coach, so we know exactly what it's looked like for the last 10 players like you. But you don't know that, so it's hard for you to navigate through it, and we want to honor that and say, okay, the year-long commitment was kind of the simplest one in every way, but I understand it's a lot to chew off. And so we go, absolutely, right when I heard the first person say, I don't know about it, for me, it's like, let's go to spring only. Let's go to spring only, and then the next commitment is summer and fall. Then you have more information and more time. Now, about fall baseball, There is an event called the Arizona Fall Classic, for example. In the long run, most recruiting occurs in the fall. When people go to high school and start figuring things out, then they start making decisions that you will align for high school or align for college. If you say you're a primary baseball player and you play multiple sports, you don't really miss a lot of baseball. You might miss your other sport. Well, they don't allow it. You're making a decision. Then you can't really say you're a primary baseball player any more than I'm a primary boyfriend to my girlfriend. I'm mostly committed to her, but I don't think she would agree to that. And also, if you say you are focused on college baseball, it's super young. You're in 8th grade. In the long run, if you're committed to college baseball, and part of what I'm trying to do is feed you perspective. If you're committed to college baseball, your decision making is going to align with that. If you're committed to high school baseball, then for example, you're going to make the decisions to align yourself for high school baseball. If you're a talented junior and you say there's a lot of showcase camps in the fall, but I'm going to miss those because I'm going to work on my high school field, whatever, I don't know, something, and it's like, from a college coach's perspective, or I'm going to play football. From a college coach's perspective, they don't really care. It's easy. You make it very easy for them because someone else is committed and better and working harder and doing all the right things. And it's a business at the end of the day, and no one really cares about all of the sports and all of the stuff and all of it. And I'm not saying it insensitively. I'm saying it because my job for your sons is to be up on the wall and to be a college baseball player. The biggest thing that's going to stand in the way is parents. And the next biggest thing is players. And the biggest things that stand in the way in the long run relative to college recruiting, number one, high school football. Not because I don't like it, I actually love it, but I'm saying based on the amount of people, and again, high school football occurs in the fall, and that's when most college recruiting is going to occur. And the next one is snow sports. Apologize to anyone who is a skier or snowboarder, but those things stand in the way. So am I saying not to play fall football in high school? Absolutely not. But there's a balance that you have to have, and over time, we have a lot of stories who have missed out on their baseball opportunities from playing high school football. Also, the other thing with high school football at a younger level, for freshmen, for example, you really don't have much on Saturdays and Sundays. So the majority of what you have, you might miss out on some practices, but if you're a primary baseball player, you make as much as you can. And we have guys who do that. We have got the norm for people, and for you guys, and I think for folks who go, I don't know about what fall freshman year looks like. Last year, we had 2 full 15 Berkridge teams in the fall, and the year before, and every other year. In other words, the norm is you absolutely play on your travel baseball team in fall of freshman year. You don't know that yet, though. So we go, what's reasonable, the way we've done it in the past is, fortunately, for spring only, then commit for summer and fall. Because we throughout the year commitment, and what might make sense more for you guys based on your just being at peace with the commitment level, I think what I've heard is, yeah, what if we do spring, summer, and then we kind of look at the fall later? And that's something that we're willing to do too. So, and the reason we're willing to do that in your guys' case is because I don't love it. I don't love it because team assembly ultimately falls under me. That means at some point though, it means you don't have to bite off so much. Now, I like biting off the spring, right ahead of you. The 9th graders come back in the mix. It gives us enough time to try out, start committing, and then do the upper division. And because this is what it's going to look like in the future, just without the spring. It's going to look like, you play in January, get ready for high school. During high school, you get offered to a team. It's what we do with every team. Now, I mentioned the Arizona Fall Classic. On the Arizona Fall Classic, which you will want to go to in the future if possible, there's not many players who go. All of that comes with a down payment for the next year. So if somebody says, well, we want to go, but we don't know about next year, it doesn't make sense for us to bring them. So we only want committed players going. So this is the future of where you're going, and it's coming soon. So the player who said, I don't really know, there's opportunities that are there that you will have to know. It's not right now though, and we understand the sensitivity of an 8th grader going into 9th grade. We look and go, okay, if it's spring and summer now, there are things in the fall that you will have to pre-plan and that we will have to pre-plan. So for example, if there's Arizona Fall Classic, so the players that are going to the Fall Classic, if they're not in the program at that time, would we invite them to the Fall Classic? And the answer is maybe, because it would capture the following year. There's a commitment level to the next year. So again, this is where the complication occurs. Also for you guys, at some point then in the summer, we look and go, if your last payment for this phase is in July, and then we re-offer you in June, let's say, and say there's a July deadline, then you have this double payment in July, which is a little awkward, but it's not the end of the world. I'm just pointing out that how it will look later on, because it's my job to look like that far ahead. So for you guys, is there a chance to do the whole commitment for the whole year, which some people have already done? Sure, that's already in place. We can do that. Is there doing, I would say either spring only or summer and summer and fall? Maybe, but at this point, it probably looks more reasonable because of the mindset of this current group. This looks like the most reasonable of committing to spring and summer, and then at some point over here, making a decision about what's next. Does that look like it connects the dots with what most, in your mind, speaking on behalf of a group that's not here, does that look like it's the most desirable? Did you have a question?
About that, so how do you know which of your 9th grade 14U team is gonna come back in the summer? So like what your spring team, so if you do the model that goes spring through summer, you're gonna know what your spring team is, but then how do you know who's gonna come back for summer? Like, would you know that? Would you want those 9th grade 14-year-olds to, commit in the spring, even though they're not playing, that they're gonna come back?
They'll be offered. So
okay.
14-year-old 9th graders get offered in spring
okay.
for summer, fall. Now, where they get offered is different if they're on this group. So one thing I would share with you guys, the team that you just have, that you're currently on, whatever you just had in the last tournament, you'll probably never have again. And then the next team that commits to the next season probably looks different than the last one. So it's going to evolve and change all the time for you guys. And just doing this over time, the teams are never the same. The personnel, we would love, and again, this model goes all in. We want to keep the team the same. But because of multiple sports and people moving and all the stuff that's included, I'm just letting you guys know the teams never look the same. They will certainly change, but the core of the team ends up remaining the same. So the 9th graders, the question about that, the 9th graders are kind of on this model. Now spring, whatever, maybe they do, maybe they don't, but they end up getting offered for the summer, fall, okay? For you guys as 8th graders though, this is the model we're looking at where they would commit for spring and summer, and then at some point in the summer. Now, so let's say there's a summer travel event that you guys have. If you're on the team already, then you can kind of plan for it and do travel and figure out ahead. There's also something in the fall though. So you probably won't make your decision in the fall in September. Maybe one will because you happen to have waited till the last minute and we didn't get another person to replace you. My job is to replace, my job is to get someone else of equal or better talent. That's the math of it. I need to constantly be on the hunt forever for new players that are bigger, stronger, faster, and better, more committed, not playing multiple sports and all the rest. In the meantime, what we do is make the absolute best of what we have and try to have meetings and figure things out. The best thing for us would be committing season by season, where we get the decision making on moving players up, down, left, right, whatever, but you pay for everything. High school, you're going to pay whatever, and they can do whatever they want with you, and you can't really do anything about it. And they have all the power, and it's not actually true, but you're going to feel that way. And then you're going to do things you don't want to do to please people that you don't necessarily like, and that becomes the high school experience. For us, we do it the opposite, where we go, how can we provide the best quality for you on your terms over time that also work for us? So, so rewinding all the way back, it looks like to me, based on what I've heard, the spring and summer commitment kind of wrapped into one is the easiest thing to bite off for people, and then kind of re-look at it going into the fall. The time that we would re-look at the fall though, again, would be the summer. But by that point for you guys, you know what school you're going to, First of all, because someone going to private school, like, are they going to get in, are they not? You've also talked to people who've just gone through it about, like, freshman football, for example, is a big one. We have 20 years of doing this, times many players at many levels. None of the sophomore, juniors, or seniors ever say, hey, well, we do have football too. That's it. They know how to navigate it by that point. Every year, though, the freshmen go, not sure if you've ever had a football player before, but we are going to play frosh football. And we go, with respect, we know what that looks like 1,000 times better than you do, because we just went through it 15 times last year, and here are the stories of some of the players and how they did or didn't make it work. So again, we take that information over time. If it was too difficult to do, we wouldn't include it. We would say, you know, if you're going to just do football or baseball, and we'll be fine. We'll have other players fill in. We still want you, and we'll figure out how to get you after the fall. By the way, the fall ends roughly, the fall in this point, summer is kind of June, July. August is slow-ish time. And then the fall season is like September. It's like late August through early November. Early November. So winter sport, folks, it doesn't really affect. So someone playing basketball or soccer's winter sport, if they're playing basketball or soccer in high school, our upper division program doesn't really connect with it. It does, like, at the very end. Remember, fall or winter sports can't start with tryouts until fall sports are over for high school. So just like right now, February, not this Monday, but next Monday is first day of tryouts, which means that high school winter sports end right before that. So that the winter sport, now if you go into postseason, if you're on varsity and make postseason and go deep, now there's crossover. And you can't start on your new sport until your old sport's over. But the winter sports don't really connect, so it's mostly fall sports. And most of the time it's football that becomes the biggest one. Again, my recommendation over time for people is, over time, if you're a serious baseball player, you won't take off the fall. You definitely won't take off the fall. Definitely not going to take off the summer. You may or may take off the spring, which is during the high school season, which I would recommend playing high school because it's fun. I love high school baseball like I love Little League. It's fun, it's local, you're with your friends, and like I promote high school baseball. But relative to college recruiting, it's not instrumental in the college recruiting process. So the serious baseball players will play fall and summer. Freshman year, though, people go, I don't really know what I'm serious about. I want to do a lot of different things, and I think it's like, I've never played football before. I will probably never play again, but I want to play this 1 year. But do I sacrifice baseball to do it? And from our perspective, we work around your schedule to make it meaningful, to make sure that you get enough. We have multiple teams playing on multiple weekends to where if you had to make something up, there's opportunity to do that. Our encouragement is you commit to the whole thing, like just whatever that means. Whether it means committing to the whole year, committing to summer, fall, or just committing to, in the summer, commit to the fall, because it does work out. And if we had 28 Berkovich players at 15U last year, probably 10 of them played high school football. And if you asked them if they would do it again, they would say, yeah. Or why wouldn't I? Like, we don't play on weekends. So I get to play baseball, I don't miss tournaments, because high school football isn't on weekends. At those levels, is not on weekends, or on Friday. And you're not practicing on those days, and you're not doing film. And so if you did, even for varsity, if you're a varsity quarterback playing on Friday night, getting hammered, which we have those in our program, they're also college baseball recruits, it means you don't play the 8 a.m. game on Saturday, or the 10 a.m. because you have time to recover. And we would try then, because we work with the tournament directors, we would get late games for that team, but also let that player know, if you can't make it at all, that's understandable if you got really banged up, but just make Sunday only, or make Sunday only, or we're going to get late games to accommodate you. And that's for a varsity quarterback getting hammered. For a freshman football player that plays on Thursday and can recover on Friday and be there on Saturday and Sunday, it's not really that much. But I know it might feel like that right now on the front side. The conflict doesn't become tournaments or games, it becomes more practice, if you miss practice. By the way, high school sports are going to be probably right after school. Basketball is different because it's indoors, but typically it's right after school where your Berkovich practice would be in the evening time. Probably one time a week during a lot of the times of that. So there's not as much conflict as people will perceive, but we understand that it's very hard to commit to a whole year because it's unknown. So for that reason, we want to try to accommodate and go, you have options. We don't really want to give an option to every person and say, you want option 1, 2, or 3. So I'm curious to hear from you guys, what would you view as the best, speaking on behalf of the other 8th grade parents who aren't here? Or what do you think they would favor? If there was just one way to do it, what do you guys think the best way would be? It's not binding at all. It's just dialogue and information.
So the 14-year-olds that are now that are currently freshmen, they moving forward will stay with more their grade
Not necessarily, but they will go by this model of the upper division model and be offered summer and fall. Some of them may want to go and play on a 15U team, for example, right? Because I'm a 9th grader, I don't want to play with 8th graders anymore. Even though the 8th graders are farther superior, I'm just saying, like it's really difficult for people. They feel like they're playing down, and it's a real thing. And not even going further into that, like for some people, it's really hard to get over. It doesn't mean it's a promotion necessarily in terms of team talent. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, I mean just because you were born like 4 months before
it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard for some people.
I understand. I'm just saying, but moving forward, it might switch. So say the new 8th graders are now that summer. So now they're now going into being 9th graders. What happens to the ones that are going into there? Do they combine again, or do
So here's how this would look. We would have, if we committed spring and summer, the clumsy thing about it is where do the 9th graders fit in? Because the 9th graders come back to these teams in the summer. So what we would have to do then is operate with lower rosters for the spring, summer, and have guest players. Or have players that are on the team for the spring only that aren't in for the summer. And we offer a new player who just comes in that's good, for example, and we go, we have an offer for you that's spring only, and then we'll see from there. And then after the spring, and they would know on the front side, it doesn't include a summer commitment on the same team because 9th graders are coming back. Now, it doesn't mean we're cutting somebody. We would be telling them on the front side, which is fair game for everybody at this point because nobody is committed. Well, some people are, but most are not committed to the space. So now it becomes we have X amount of roster spots. The ideal out of everything is committing the whole year because it's simplest. I'm just saying, it's a perfect 10. A 9.9 is this one or this one. So it's like, it's slightly better just because it's simpler, but usually what we do is this model, but this model could also work, it just has complications, like the 9th graders coming back into the mix, into the summer. But that's a good question. Any other, what do you think people would favor most? And again, you could see where I start is kind of like your senior year and rewind backwards into where we are right now, which is right here. And I think what's going to be easiest for people is this model based on where they are now. If they had perspective if they've gone through it and they go, oh no, we know what it's going to look like because we've already gone through it. Even for folks who've gone through it though, for a year ago, with an older son, it's all different now. Like the whole circuit changes all the time. So the current trends are different than they were several years ago. So it is always evolving and changing. And that's why we go, you know what? With the group that we have, we would be willing to work with to make it work. Because we want you guys in, we like you guys, we hope that it works for the whole thing, and we're trying to figure out how we can make that happen. Again, you guys speaking on behalf of others, does this look like if there was a B, or C, what do you think people would be most comfortable with? Because biting off the whole year is a lot, in my opinion, with unknown, because you don't know which high school, you don't know how much they're gonna like other sports, or if they want to play, like there's just a lot of unknown that for your freshman year. After that, it's not as much because you stop playing, one sport is gonna go out of the picture in the year from now. And each year you get more narrow with what you do, but where you guys are now, let me ask you this, does this model seem better than this model?
Than the full year model?
Yeah.
Yes.
This one, right? How about, so spring and summer, how about spring only?
I like the spring only because I feel like you have a better sense of what your teams are gonna look like and who's committed to what season. So, you know that the high school kids are out and it's gonna be this team. And then in the summer, if you did then summer and fall, I like that because then you know who's committed from, like the high school kids coming back. However, what makes me nervous is that, and it's just primarily because a lot of the kids play football.
Exactly.
And the commitment that during the week.
Which every year a lot of kids play football.
Right.
But go ahead.
And so like for us, and maybe just me personally, is like that unknown on what is the team gonna look like. And I mean, I know our commitment and what we can do, but this is not a solo sport. It's based on the
Right.
team commitment.
Yep.
And I think and this goes into a question I was gonna ask is it fair to say we should just assume a lot of like changes and nothing's gonna be kind of solid during that time with what the team looks like?
I would say that from here on out, there is, here's the thing, Headfirst is the biggest and has the most volume of good players out of any organization. So if anything, there's more coming. So if we go, well, player X, Y, or Z might not be in, but it's like A, B, C are coming, and more. And here's a reason why. There are local-ish teams that run up until high school that they can't accommodate the needs of a high schooler. The desires that you have now are gonna be much different than you in these seats in 2 years from now. We know what those desires are because we will in part teach you, inform you, and train you what they should be relative to college baseball. Right now, though, people are kind of in the same place as they go to high school, then they start to figure out look for something bigger or better than their current teams. There's only a couple organizations that are going to be able to provide for the talent level that we have, which there are like this many in the Bay Area. So it's like if someone were to go and play elsewhere, I'd be like, it has to be one of these couple teams based on your profile, and if it's not, you shouldn't. And even then, I think you shouldn't. But if it's going to be, it should. There's only a couple, and so again, so more are coming, and so for us, if we want the current third baseman for the next couple of years, but if it's not him and a left-handed hitting version of him, we've upgraded relative to college recruiting. But the personality might not be the same, and it might not be your neighbor, like, so it might be a different player, but it's going to be, we know it's going to be a good player, and that the teams are going to be very solid because of what we have to offer organizationally, mainly relative to college recruiting and connecting high school players to college, which is what people end up looking for. So, but I hear what you're saying, and that's where, here's the problem. If it's spring only, summer only, and fall only, I end up re-recruiting the same player 3 times a year, which doesn't make any sense for me, you, or anybody, because then it's just overkill and too difficult, and I go, I'll just take the player for the year instead, even though he's less talented, but he's a harder worker and committed over time. I will take that player 10 times out of 10, because talent fades, and there's no guarantee any of our kids, we're good now, we're one girlfriend away, or one injury away, or one something away from talent being beaten by work ethic and grit, really. But I hear what you're saying, and that's where the spring summer assures you of kind of roster stability for a long period of time right now in front of you. Like me speaking, if I were advising you, it's almost like buying a house or something like that. Like one deal sounds better on the front side, but it's much worse on the long side, right? But it's right in front of you, and you go, well, it's a lower monthly payment, that sounds better. I was like, yeah, you're paying more over time, that kind of thing. The best model, if everyone was all in, is the year model, because it's continuity, you get to build around it, you know what you're building, you pour in, and even then players come and go by season to some degree. There's mobility within that. There's someone's going to move, someone's going to get hurt, new players come in. And that's why we did it. And we're like, this is the best model, but it's the longest commitment level. That's harder to chew on because of the entering high school right in the middle of it, right? So, and that's what we go right away. When I heard that, I'm like, yep, let's not do it. Let's shift to Plan B. And then Plan B for me was spring only, and then summer fall. Because at that point, you end up understanding more about what high school football is and isn't. Even then, players go, well, I'm committing for summer, but 9th graders go, I don't know about fall. We talk them through it. They do commit to both, and they go. Their advice on the backside to you would be, yeah, it works. It works out. It's not perfect because you're playing multiple sports. It never is. but you're probably not taking baseball off entirely during that time. So it keeps you in the loop on competitive high-end baseball while you're still playing football. So it's not ideal, but the most ideal thing is 1 year and no other sports and getting perfect grades and volunteering in the community and going to the gym and, you know, like just doing it's not realistic. Again, I think the default for your group based on where the mindset is currently, I think, is spring, summer. The consensus for me from people has been, we like our group, like our coach, like the program, we like all of it, we want to keep it together as long as possible. In people's minds, the easiest thing is, what they've recommended is, can we do spring, summer, and then approach the fall later? And I think that is a reasonable way to go. There's always a complication. The two complications for that, your spring roster doesn't look exactly like your summer roster, number one, because ninth graders. So then if the ninth graders aren't here during this time, who is going to be there in place of them? That is, you have to have volume to have a team and a successful team. Then what about the spring players when the ninth graders come back? It's a complication, but we can work with that. And then the fall teams might look slightly different than the summer teams, but again, the core of the teams remains the same. I think what would happen when the majority of the people are on the team, bought in, and then there's summer fall planning that occurs, and they have more information about what high school looks like, I would say 90% of them will end up committing to the fall too. And I think in people's minds, they even look at it right now and go, we're very sure we're going to commit to the fall, just a lot. Like the 5-year commitment, we just don't know. You know, like we would love to, but it's just a lot. Can we do the 1 year? But when we're asking for 1 year, it's like, that's a lot. Can we do the through summer and then reevaluate going into the fall? Which again, I've talked to George about. He's open to it. Becomes his role then to go, you guys are gonna have a great experience. I want you and you want us. Let's do it. But a better and bigger, stronger player comes along that's willing to commit to all of it, and you're not. Business is good. Like that's the business. Like why would we invest when someone hasn't invested the same way? Even then though, loyalty means something on our part where we go, this player's been with us for 3 years. Like we want, look, please, pretty please, take the spot. We don't want to give it to someone, we want you to take. Yeah, we just don't know yet. You understand though, we now have to go with somebody else, which means why are we going to give you all the catching reps when you're not going to be here after? And we have very important stuff in the fall that we have to have a new catcher walk in and try to do that in this environment. Like we have to give him play time. You know, catching's back, so you need a bunch of catchers, but you guys get it's not just numerical pieces on board. It's out there on the tournament circuit functionally like, and again, 2 events that we do this at this time are college showcase camps. No, in your case it's 1. There's a college showcase camp here and here. So this, and there's probably also a travel trip on both of them. And so it's not just like tournament baseball all the way through. It's like 5 events here and 5 events here. 1 being a travel, 1 being a showcase in here. So there's probably like 3 tournaments here and 3 here over 3 months. So it's not really like every weekend there's a conflict. It's kind of far and few between.
So would that fall, so if you did the spring and summer as kind of like the initial commit, and then you reassess it fall, would fall look like kind of end of August to mid-November?
Correct.
And then winter would be that November to...
Winter, good question. Winter in the upper division is downtime.
Okay, so it's even more than in lower division.
It's less. The commitment level is less.
Right.
Lower division, it's a higher commitment level.
Right.
So we look and go kind of mid-November through, or early November through the end of December is down. Like you have not paid for it, not playing, there's no practices. There is a program for players who want to play during that time of like 1 practice a week and 1 tournament or something like that, like more than nothing. And the reason is some people are new to the organization and it gives them a chance to jump in and play and for us to get access to them and see how their talent level. Other players who are taking fall off entirely or were injured or different things like that, then go, hey, we want to play winter. And we go, that's an abbreviated, like, it's not your team. right? Like it's not that this team is not in the winter. It's a group of like, can we get 12, 15-year-olds of varying talent levels out on a field and go play a tournament and get reps in? Because a guy is coming off surgery, three guys are new to the organization, and three guys aren't happy with their performance, they want to do more, or stuff like that. Then we start up again in January.
Okay.
January is 1 month of training, which is one practice a week,
Yeah.
and one event, double header-ish. It's a slow start to get ready for high school tryouts.
So the original like year-long offer was through January.
It included January,
Included January,
but
yeah.
not November, December.
Okay.
Not 3 weeks of November and all of December, and also not August. Because those are rest times that we put in there where there's a little bit of downtime from a team perspective. And again, it's just a little break in the action of the season. So your season in the long run, that's where it's kind of defined as spring really goes February, March, April, May. Although ninth graders come back in May. They're able to come back in May. The summer season is really June, July. Fall is really half of August, let's say, September, October, and a fourth of November. And then 3/4 of November and December are off, and then a half of August becomes off. So and then January you want to start up again to be ready for high school tryouts. So that's where the calendar year goes up.
So really this option 2 or 3 is only for this upcoming year, because then it's going to flip back to what the traditional option 1 is. So this is only for right now.
Correct. It's only this year, only with your group, because we've never done it before this way. Also, I run the 13-month teams. So I look right now, and I get the benefit of learning from many years of doing it to share with them, like, here's what we should do. Here's what we could do, here's what we should do. So that's why, as I ask you guys, I also am going to take the information and say, here's what made the most sense for this year's group. And then with my group in the year from now, go, how do I want to do it? Maybe I just want greater volume and do this. And I take players that are all in and go, let's go. Yeah, but you might lose a good talent. This guy's going to be better than that guy anyway. Like, he's just not big yet. He's big or whatever. Like, so there's a lot of balances that go in it, right, back and forth. So, because really you guys we want to please you, your customers, your clients, like you're going through, your son, like you need to make a really good decision. But we have to make a really good decision too. We have finite amount of spots where there is no shortage of desire. Every single person who plugs in says, can I play on the Berkovich honors team? I'm trying out for the Berkovich 2014. So people aren't really coming in and going, hey, your non-Berkovich team in this age level, I'd love to play on that. Like that might. So for us, we look and go, these spots aren't impossible to fill, especially with advanced planning and recruiting and marketing, because what we offer going up and up. But we would rather have current players be the best players around and go to college in the major leagues. They were with us since they were 12 or something like that. So, but if not, that's understandable. So on our side, we're trying to make it work with our current group, and then go recruiting, like the new players. Like, let's go. Let's see them. Do we move a guy up? Do we move a guy sideways? How do we do it to create teams that are compelling over time? So again, there's a lot that goes in on our side. And it probably looks on a tournament, I mean, this is just my team, and some people are here and some people aren't. We do well most of the time, and sometimes we don't. But there's a lot of behind the scenes and forward planning that goes into it. And that's our job, to try to make sure that you guys have something that you can stay in over time, because other organizations haven't thought of it, don't have the background, and don't have the future of what we have. So their players will end up at some point going, hey, how is it over there? And you share knowledge with them, and they go, really? We just kind of have a team that we don't have a coach right now, and we're short players, and we have some guest players, and I don't think there's any future or vision or anything to it. And then that's why I say there's only a couple that work big over time. But yeah, I'm taking your guys' information too and plugging it into like what makes the most sense for my group. And this one, I could see where this one makes the most sense from this vantage point. I probably, for me personally as a coach, I'd probably go with this one, which gives me time to reload. But again, the fear of the fall is always the thing. So it's like, do I keep high volume of talent and then figure it out and configure it differently over time? Because you don't want to sacrifice the spring for the summer for you guys, because that's 4 months. So you don't want 4 months of non-quality to have quality when the ninth graders come back. So, and again, this is where we look and go, like, there are replacement players that have to fit, like, it's not like, we said 8 players and we'll figure it out. Like, you won't want that. And then your son gets hurt because he's having to throw too much or something like that. That's not, you can't do that. So again, and that's where we go, it's the chicken and the egg. Right now, it's late January, there's lots of time to figure it out as we go into February, but like, to figure it out long term. But where we are right now, it's right around the corner of commitment level where we start to look, because we have other players who will be on hold based on the decision making of the current group. So the current group gets invitations, including you guys. We figure out, navigate, and go, okay, there's a new player coming in, there's a deserving player, like these are viable options for us to create a talented team that we can develop over time. Any other questions, comments, or any of the above? How complicated is this year? I mean, again, next year it's like, you don't really think about spring. So you get an offer, you prepare for January, you get ready for trials right now, for high school trials as a sophomore. You love to make varsity, you're hoping to make JV, and depending on the school. And then you get an offer already probably, and you know your team for summer and fall, and you know your travel trip in the summer already, and you know your, like, this year is the hard one. And my impression every year in doing this, I would tell people, like, it's very it's not that confusing yet for you, because it's just been a 14-month year. The 14-month spring, it's very confusing, and if you have a glimpse of that yet, after the meeting, you're gonna be more confused. So if you are more confused than you were when you came in, then it's probably accurate, because there's a lot of variables and information that you may not have thought about of a longer term. But what's right ahead for you is, given all of that unknown, right? Is my kid gonna love baseball? Which school? How do they use him? Is he a pitcher only at that point? Is he whatever? So the spring, summer, I view as like the lowest hanging fruit for people to have a comfortable commitment, and then figuring out fall. Or the whole thing. You know, some people go, I don't want to even think about it. I just rather do the whole thing and get it done. I know where my kid's playing baseball. He doesn't do other sports. Something like that. This would be the more complicated spring. And I guess this person would shift into spring only, and then shifting to upper division, where I go, okay, that's an option for you. The first payment is February for the spring, and the first payment is February for the summer fall.
Why do you pay
you're
the double
committed.
so
Why?
early? Like,
Because
like
you're operating as an upper division player. Like, why would we wait?
No, I understand that. I guess, like, up until this point, though, you know, we've kind of done season to season, and to my knowledge, I don't think have had like an overlap. I mean, I understand like maybe 1 month where you pay like the upfront fee or whatever for the next, but if you could just explain why there's an overlap for maybe so many months.
Right, and again, the reason why is this is an upper division team. So for the 14-year-old 8th grader, it doesn't make sense for us to not commit them early when we're committing the rest of the team early. Because then that player goes, maybe I'm not gonna do it. And we go, we didn't offer 5 other guys because you said you were gonna do it. And those 5 other guys wanted to, they're in high school, they don't have a double payment. So because this is treating like a lower division player, where this is an upper division player. So that's why it's confusing for the 14-year-old on why there would be 2 payments.
Isn't that like committing all year round? And just this is just like,
It is.
There's so many
Well,
moving parts.
Kind of, but here's the reason. This player though, and we say here's the down payment, and they don't pay, and we go, they're a question mark. Like this player is in for the whole thing. So if we go, the first down payment for the summer is March 1st, whatever, and they say, and we don't receive the payment or get email back or anything, and we go, they're a question. We need to look in front of your spot because they're a question mark. Because now, on your side, it's a double payment. On our side, it's not. This is a payment for the spring. The down payment occurs for the summer. You just happen to be the same player that's being recruited to both of them. Because again, if a player was spring only, and we invited another player in that slot, they're a high schooler, for example, they're starting to pay for the summer right away. They've already started 2 months ago. By the way, it's a down payment, not necessarily. But yeah, I mean, to a degree, it is committing for the whole year. You just don't know. You just don't have to know that right now, but you would soon. So it gives somebody like an extra month to figure things out. And that's why, in your guys' case, typically, like next year, I probably do this, and we have for the last 5 years. But it is clumsy. But if someone knows that that's what they're going to do, it's not clumsy. Then it's like, yeah, it makes sense, and I understand why there's a double payment at that time, because this is for the spring. It's like this, if somebody says, well, why would I have to pay for my a down payment on my spring break tournament now? It's not until 2 months from now. It's like the planning is way ahead. So the planning of this occurs way ahead of time. So that's where we really commitments. The nice thing with this model is anything planned for the summer can start in the spring, right? So for you guys, if you have a summer trip or something like that, and it's like, hey George, where are we going and when? Because I'm trying to plan out my whole spring and summer now. Just this person then doesn't plan on the fall. And there is fall, like the fall is, there is stuff coming, but you just get to decide on it later. That's why I think this one could make the most sense here. I mean, we're open to kind of any which way, and anything else on any of this that could make sense or not make sense. And what we've done every year is the double payment model, and it's always clumsy because double payment gets big, and again, it's like, okay, and just like, wait, why are we paying for 2? Why are we doing it ahead of time? It's like, we're not going to wait till June or even May. Like, why would we wait till May for the first payment of the summer? It starts in late May. So if we start in May, and the player says thanks but no thanks, and we passed on other players for that spot, we can't. So that's why this one is the cleanest all the way around. This is the next cleanest for commitment level because you have this long commitment. And one way you have the long commitment here, one way you have it here. And that's why this one is making no sense because it includes 9th graders. It's just clumsy for the 8th grade fortunates, which is why you guys are here. And the 9th graders aren't. Any other questions on any of this? Is it more confusing now than before? I'm just curious, just going around the room, what makes most sense for you out of these? Like personally, what do you, just personally, what do you look and go, I think, whatever.
I think understanding that as you get older, it's more about the summer and fall than maybe it is now. So fall for us isn't so much a concern, it's more about, is it baseball or some other sport from a full commitment perspective?
Got it.
So this year, probably, I mean, the optionality is good down below, but we believe we're here for the entire year. It's more about, is it baseball or is it something else?
Yep.
From a full year commitment as he gets older.
And a full year, correct me if I'm wrong, a full year is just a lot, right? Including the entering high school.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, I think, for all parents, all sports, compressed, and the first time around the block for many. That's where.
And you've been through it, so that's why you have some history on it.
Yes.
And for all of us, for all of you guys, you know what your lives look like until this point because it's not that different from your 7th grade experience, right? Because you know what it looks like through summer. The unknown overall becomes that little phase.
I guess my takeaway, Mario, as a freshman, a coming freshman, 3 years from now, you would never take the fall off if you're full commit baseball. This year it's goofy because there's football and other complexities, but if you're committed to baseball, you would never think about, well, am I taking the fall off if I'm a junior?
Later.
You were all in. It's showcases. It's exposure. You would never, as a full commit to baseball, take the fall off as a junior because that's where the action is, and certainly as you get older as well.
No, agreed.
So this is kind of a unique year for most.
I'm gonna put 1 point for this one, unofficially. How about for you? It means nothing at all. It would be edited out, in fact. Let's turn this off. I mean, we could have turned it off a long time ago.